Hello and welcome back. I hope you like this very bare background of some doors. Today, of course, it is the end of another month, and despite the fact that I have not posted the last 3 wrap-ups and hauls that I have filmed and not edited, we are filming another one. This, of course, is my June wrap-up. So, I did pretty well in June. I read a lot of books. So this month I read a total of 11 books for a total pages of 4,128, and I gave an average rating of 3.63. So, a pretty good reading month. I started out the month with finishing the majority of The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. This is the second book in the Wheel of Time. I did really enjoy reading this. I didn't like it quite as much as the first book. It felt like it was leading up to things and setting things up, so some of the plot wasn't quite as interesting, but I did rate it 4 out of 5 stars. A book that I forgot to mention in my Canadian books was The Case of the Missing Men by Kris, Bertin, and illustrated by Alexander Forbes. This is a graphic novel mystery. It's supposed to be set in the 90s. A lot of the time I felt like it was more like set between like the 50s and the 80s. But it was an interesting book, and I rated it 3 stars. Then I read The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This was a very interesting novel. I liked how her mental illness played a part in the story. I thought that that was well done. I did kind of see the twist coming, but was in hot denial. But I rated it 5 stars. It was a great book, and I did really enjoy reading it. Then I read the second book in the Thessaly trilogy called The Philosopher Kings by Walton. This is about the second generation of children who are growing up in this Platonic society. The first book, the civilization crumbled a little bit, so this is about what happens next, and I rated it 5 stars. This is the second time that I read this book, and it was absolutely fantastic. Then I read my second graphic novel for the month, Monstrous Awakening, Volume 1, by Marjorie and illustrated by Sana Takeda. I hope I pronounced all that right. This is a very dark graphic novel. The art is really, really interesting. My favorite bits were every once in a while there was this cat teaching his grandchildren, or her grandchildren, about the history of this splintered society that's run by women. There's like a lot of magic. It's really dark, it's really weird. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, and that's all I'm going to say about that one. I rated it 3 stars. Next, I finished off the Thessaly trilogy by reading Necessity. So in this one, you get a little bit more sci-fi than the first 2, which do take place in pre-ancient Greece. So it's before the Trojan War and before quite a few other things that happened within the actual history of the area. This one takes place in space. So there's a whole bunch of new questions risen, and it is again about the next generation. This one wasn't my favorite in the series. I did still rate it 5 stars. It was still a fantastic book. I really liked what it did at the end. It's just, I have a lot of feelings about this book, so I'm going to put it down and save it for my series review. Next, we have The Library at Mount Char. I read this during the read-along that was hosted by Ashley from Set the Story, who is also a Canadian and is hosting the Read-a-thon. This video will probably come out after that's done, so it's a little pointless telling you that. But I had this on my interested list, so I decided to participate, and I did not like this book. It reminded me of American Gods, but the parts of American Gods that I didn't like. This book was also kind of told in short, choppy bits, which I never like. It was exceedingly cruel. If you read my Goodreads review of this, there is a whack load of trigger warnings for this book. I don't know. I liked the idea about the book, but didn't like any of the actual book. So that was a book that could have thrown me in a reading slump at a rating of 2 stars. So I decided to pick up something happy, and I picked up Crazy Rich Asians by Kwan. This, of course, is being turned into a movie and is super popular on BookTube. I've been wanting to read it since I first saw it and first heard about it because I thought it sounded super fascinating, and it was. It was so hard to put down. I thought that the depiction of wealth was really well done and very interesting, and I loved this book. I rated it 4 stars, and I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. Then I started a book that I wasn't super enjoying, so I decided to pick up Princesless, Raven the Pirate Princess, Book 2, Free Women. Anyways, it's by some people. They'll be linked down below with their names, so if you want to find out. So this, of course, is about Raven and her crew of pirate women. That's great. And about their adventures. It was great. I enjoyed it. I rated it 3 stars. The end. Then I read My Sunshine Away by Emma Walsh. This book made me highly uncomfortable. It opens with a sexual assault and then goes from there. It's from a male perspective. I rated it 2 stars. And then finally, as that book was throwing me into a reading slump, I did manage to finish Child of Prophecy by Juliet and Marillier. This is the 3rd book in the Seven Waters series. It was the end of the original trilogy, but she did write more books to add on to it. I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was really interesting, morally, autonomally. Yeah, I rated it 4 stars. I think that's all I'm going to say about it. It follows the 3rd generation of children from Seven Waters. And those are all the books that I read this month. It was a pretty good month, if I do say so myself. So hopefully July is just as good. So far it hasn't been. I started off on a clean slate and I have read a couple of pages. If you're interested in seeing some live how much I'm failing at reading this month, do check out my vlog for the read-a-thon. But yeah, so there it is. The stack. Pretty happy. We'll see how it goes. And we'll see you in the next video.